Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with.
Nerdarchy is dead.
And today we continue exploring Eberron and why 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons needs it with monstrous nations.
Hey, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So our series into Eberron and why 5th edition needs it continues. This time we're going to talk about monster nations.
All right, so we have two really cool monster nations that totally make Eberron an awesome thing.
So one thing worth mentioning though is Covarine, which is the main continent of Eberron, is actually built upon a monster nation. The ancient empire of the Dhakaani are basically goblinoids, basically all the goblinoids really, and they were spread out throughout Covarine. But the Dactyl War happened, which if for you guys that are not familiar with Eberron, think Far Realm, think Cthulhu. They invade, decimate things, and basically totally destroys that empire. But it's important and worth noting because it means these Dhakaani ruins are all over the continent of Covarine, where a lot of the adventuring takes place in Eberron.
Right, and that leaves the world full of places for adventurers to go and explore. And come on, man, who doesn't want more adventurers, want more places to adventure?
And it also dovetails back into when we go into the monster nations, one of which, speaking of Dhakaani, is now Darguun, which is basically the goblinoids trying to reestablish their foothold in the world,
their dominance.
And really, it is because of the last war that they're able to. House Deneath actually goes into where where all the goblinoids are and starts recruiting them and making them mercenaries. And I believe it's Breland and Cyre that use them heavily towards the end of the last war. Well, what happens is a hobgoblin general rises up amongst them. Haruuc, I believe his name is Haruuc. Not to be confused with our Gryffindor campaign, but Haruuc rises up and begins getting all the other chieftains together and gathering them under one banner, and they betray their employers. And
I would pronounce it Haruuc because it's Haruuc.
Haruuc. You're probably right. It sounds better that way too. But you guys, if you've been around for a while, I can't read or spell or speak or anything. I don't even know why they let me on these videos. So he gathers them all together, and they betray their employers. Well, a war is raging. Breland is like, oh, we can't deal with this right now. Cyre keeps fighting them to the bitter end, but they're able to carve out this domain. And when the last war finally ends, the Treaty of Thronehold happens. Everyone is sick of fighting. Everyone is fed up. Cyre has been wiped from the map and no longer really exists. And everyone's like, should we just give it to them? They're goblins. They're going to kill each other eventually anyway, and then the problem's going to solve itself. Well, so far the problem hasn't solved itself. And one of the interesting things when you bring up the Dhakaani Empire and the ruins, there's actually a sect within Darguun, the Ketch Volaire. Sorry guys, I had notes here. You call me. And they're the word bearers, and really they want to bring back Darguun and the Dhakaani Empire. And one of the ways that they're trying to do it is by gathering relics, thinking that they're also going to find powerful magic items. So this way, they can dispose of Haruuc, and insert themselves as leadership and take over Darguun.
So I mean, anytime you've got this mass of bugbears, goblins, and hobgoblins, crazy stuff is going to happen. So it's what you want to do with it in your game. You could totally have them go off and be an awesome place to adventure and what have you.
Well, also too, Goblin Politics, right? You can jump in. Like there's another sect called the Cyre, and their thing is they kind of more traditional and ancient ways, and one of their leaders is going out and basically challenging the other clans and absorbing them. And right now he bows to the leadership of Haruuc as the High Warlord. But if he gains enough influence and power, he wants to challenge. He wants to challenge him and dispose of him as a pretender.
Seems like a pretty cool plan.
Well, it is. So there's tons of stuff going on that you could add right into your game. There's also another sect that kind of talk about, and like in the Grey Wall Mountains, there's these bugbear tribes, and there's one that is like totally hostile to pretty much anybody, including the other goblinoids. So, and also too, like if you read the books and you kind of delve into it, they really go into goblin culture and hobgoblin culture, and they really make them distinct. They make really fearsome goblins that you're gonna want. Reading about them, they're freaking scary. They're like tiny children ninjas of the night that will murder you.
Kind of reminds me of the undead creatures in Mummy: The Return.
Oh yeah. It's just like that, only maybe not quite as scary. So again, Darguun is chock full of places to adventure. Whether you're looking at it from a political stance, things to discover, quest givers. I mean, the Catch Valor could hire adventurers to kind of like steal artifacts for them, and help them reclaim their heritage, or they could actually be enemies of the players because they've uncovered this stuff. And now they want it, and they also feel like they basically feel like that anyone having it that's not a goblinoid is really has stolen it, is appropriated their culture, and them taking it back is actually they're doing the right thing.
Now you could take these kind of implements and move them in your world so that perhaps you want to take the timeline ahead a little while, and perhaps their power base has grown. And they've completely united, beyond what's already history, and they're now posing a considerable threat with the Warforged Forge being shut down. There's no more Insta Army anymore, so you have to literally use the population that's there. So what if this was a back to being a credible threat to the world again?
Well, not only that too, like House Deneath and House Thrask, they still have they're still prominent in Darguun too. They still want to use them for mercenaries, and House Thrask is always looking for different places to mine dragon shards.
Right. Drum is a nation of monsters that's ruled by hags, the daughters of Sora Kel.
Yeah, you can actually find all kinds of different monsters kind of cooperating. It's really weird because the way it's described, their social structure or organization is described as a despotic feudalism is the way it's described. And so basically the sisters are like, anything goes as long as you don't F with us trying to become a legitimate nation, don't really care. And as long as you guys aren't killing each other too much. They're kind of like, whatever, call the weak from the shaft as you will.
Right.
It also becomes this like haven for criminals because they are not part of the Thronehold Treaty. They actually were declined. They wanted in, they couldn't get in. They're not. Again, just like Darguun, these other nations are like, it's going to fall apart. How long can they hold it together? But, these hags kind of came out of nowheres, and they're pulling things together. There's 2 dragon houses that kind of have a toehold. There's one Orion road that's maintained that goes through there. So that house is in there. You have House Thrask that's trying to get in there as well. Because they try and get in everywhere is where they think they can mine. But here it's dragon shards as well as the Byresh metal, which is a special metal that has certain properties that, if I remember correctly, something to do with psionics, but it was also used against the Dactyls, so it's kind of precious, and there's only so many places you can get it.
So the Drome is, really into, the dark religions, the shadow, the mockery, and of course, the dark sex.
Yeah, well, and that being said, like anything kind of goes, but when it comes to religions, the one that's kind of like off limits is Church of the Silver Flame. your life is in danger if you openly worship the Church of the Silver Flame and you go into Drome, because that church has been known and that religion has been known to persecute monstrous races. So they're not going to be particularly friendly towards you.
And why on earth would you want to worship the Silver Flame and go there except to purge and cleanse?
Right. So that would be a bad idea. You also there's two prominent features. I mean, there's a bunch of cities and stuff, but the ones that stand out are Greywall, and that's kind of like on the border, and it's actually has a mayor that's an Illithid, which is pretty cool, and that's where you're gonna probably find the most diversity. More trading is going to happen there than any place else. The only thing Drome really has to export at this point is mercenaries. Though there are Dragon Shard fields, which, I mean, Thrask is trying to get in there and get those out, and there is the mining. But the problem is the descendants, the residents of Drome themselves aren't really doing the mining and producing this stuff. Now, Hastarask is having much better inroads into Drome than they are with Darguun, because with Darguun there's racial tensions between the goblins and orcs.
Right. Well, as here the orcs don't really have that competing factor, and because they are, kind of considered a monstrous race, it does allow them to get in, and they're the only ones that are actually represented in their seat of power, which is the Great Crag.
Yeah, the Great Crag is the capital. That's where the sisters can be found. And there's some other figures like the Stone Queen and a bunch of others in there. And they're, again, all monstrous. So this is a great place for adventurers to go. They could be working for the sisters. They could be working for any of the power bases. It could be that, one of the warlords needs outsiders to do something. Or, someone could be trying to establish political connections and diplomacy within Drome, so maybe the players get sent in there. So there's definitely tons of seeds of adventure. You could be a bounty hunter looking for a criminal in Greywall. You could be a criminal in Greywall hiding out from bounty hunters. There's so many ways you could go with it.
I don't know what you guys think about the monster nations. I think they're awesome. I've always been, fond of monsters and monstrous humanoids. And when you have literal seats of power represented by these monsters, it makes the world that much more awesome, that much more enjoyable.
There is one thing that I'd like to add to that, and that is Sharn has a section called the Melian's Gate, which is basically a goblin ghetto, and you can find other monsters as well. So the cool thing is the monsters have kind of infiltrated throughout the world of Eberron, so you can find them all over the place, and that's without even going to another continent like Zendrick. But just staying on Covarine.
So as said, if you want to continue the conversation down below, while you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
You can check us out over on Facebook.
So until next time, stay nerdy.